Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valor, staring at the massive debris field floating in space. The remains of a destroyed ship drifted like silent ghosts. His crew had detected an emergency distress signal coming from a small escape pod among the wreckage. "Commander Lewis, bring it aboard," Ryan ordered. Within minutes, the pod was carefully pulled into the ship's hangar. A team of medics and security officers rushed forward as the pod's hatch hissed open. A figure collapsed into their arms, a woman, barely conscious. Ryan approached, his sharp blue eyes scanning her strange appearance. She was tall and slender, with shimmering silver-blue skin and long, flowing white hair. Her delicate features made her look fragile, almost angelic. "She's not human," Lewis muttered beside him. The alien woman's eyes fluttered open. They were a striking violet color, filled with fear and exhaustion. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. Ryan knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he said in a calm tone. "I'm Captain Ryan Carter of the United Earth Fleet. Who are you?" She struggled to sit up. "I am Princess Ilara, of the Lumari Empire," she whispered. The crew exchanged looks. The Lumari were a peaceful race, known for their advanced technology, but rarely seen outside their territory. "What happened to your ship?" Ryan asked. Tears welled up in her eyes. "We were attacked by the Zifran Dominion," she said, her voice breaking. "They destroyed everything. I am the only survivor." The Zifrans were a brutal, warlike species, constantly expanding their territory through force and conquest. They had been in conflict with humanity for years, and now it seemed the Lumari were their latest victims. Ryan sighed. "Get her to the med bay," he ordered. "Make sure she's stable." As the medics carried her away, Ryan turned to Lewis. "Something about this doesn't feel right," he muttered. "You think she's lying?" Lewis asked. Ryan shook his head. "I don't know. But we're at war, and we just picked up an alien princess from an enemy battle zone. That's a little too convenient." Still, he couldn't ignore the feeling in his gut, the sense that Ilara wasn't telling them everything. A deep silence fell over the U.S. Valor. The ship's cannons stopped firing. The alarms dimmed. The once chaotic battle outside was now eerily quiet. Captain Ryan Carter pushed himself up from the floor, his body aching. He looked at Ilara, who now stood confidently, watching him like a predator who had already won. "You took control of the ship," Ryan said, breathing heavily. Ilara smiled. "Yes, and now your crew has no choice but to surrender." Ryan clenched his fists. "You tricked us, made us believe you were helpless." Ilara took a slow step forward. "I gave you a chance, Captain. A chance to be on the winning side." She glanced around at the unconscious security officers. But humans never learn, do they? Ryan's mind raced. The Valor was no longer under his command. That meant Ilara had control over the entire fleet's classified systems. If she sent the wrong information, she could lead the Lumari straight to Earth. "I won't let you get away with this," he growled. Ilara chuckled. "Oh, Captain, I already have. A desperate crew." On the bridge, Commander Lewis and the remaining officers were scrambling to regain control. "Captain Carter isn't responding," Lewis said, slamming his fist against the console. "And our systems are completely locked out." Lieutenant Parker looked up from her station, her face pale. "Sir, the Lumari fleet is sending a message. They're ordering us to stand down." Lewis shook his head. "If we do that, they'll take everything." He turned to the weapons officer. "Can you manually override the ship's weapons?" The officer shook his head. "No, sir." Ilara's override locked all command functions. Lewis exhaled sharply. He had one choice left. Prepare the self-destruct sequence. Gasps filled the bridge. "Sir," Parker whispered. "If we can't stop her," Lewis said, his face grim, "then we can't let her take the ship." Ryan's last move. Back in the control room, Ryan watched Ilara closely. He could see it now. The confidence in her eyes. She truly believed she had won. But she had underestimated one thing. Humans don't give up that easily. Ryan glanced at the floor. His stunned baton was still there. He met Ilara's gaze. You think you know humans, but you don't. She raised an eyebrow. Enlighten me, Captain. Ryan lunged. He grabbed the baton, twisting it to full power, and jammed it into Ilara's side. A violent electric charge coursed through her body. Her eyes widened in shock, and she collapsed to her knees. Ryan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his communicator. Lewis, I have Ilara down. Reboot the ship now. Static. Then. Captain, we were about to blow the ship up. Lewis' relieved voice came through. Ryan looked down at Ilara. She struggled to move, but the stun effect was still in her system. This isn't over, she whispered, her voice weak. Ryan exhaled. No, he said. It's just getting started. Ryan didn't waste time. Ilara was still on her knees, her body twitching from the stun baton's shock. But he knew she wouldn't stay down for long. Lewis, Ryan barked into his communicator. How fast can you override her controls? We're working on it, Captain, Lewis replied. But whatever she did, it's deep. We need time. Ryan clenched his jaw. They didn't have time. The Lumari fleet was still outside, waiting for their signal. If they realized Ilara was compromised, they would attack full force. Ryan turned back to Ilara. She was breathing heavily, her violet eyes burning with frustration. You are making a mistake, she whispered. Ryan knelt beside her, gripping her wrist. No, Princess, he said, tightening his hold. The mistake was trusting you. She smirked weakly. And yet, here we are. A desperate deal. Ilara suddenly stopped struggling. Instead, she looked directly into Ryan's eyes. You can't stop the Lumari fleet, she said. Even if you take back control of the ship, they will see it as an act of war. Do you really want that? Ryan hesitated. Your people already started this war. Ilara shook her head. No, I tried to end it before it could start. Ryan frowned. What are you talking about? She exhaled. The Zifferans are worse than you think. They don't want peace with humans. They want to use you, just like they used us. That's why I needed control of your ship, so I could make sure they never got the chance. Ryan studied her carefully. Was she lying again? Why should I believe you? He asked. Because if I wanted to destroy you, I would have done it already, she said simply. But I didn't. Instead, I tried to show you that humans aren't ready for what's coming. Ryan's mind raced. If she was telling the truth, then the Zifferans were just as dangerous as the Lumari. If she was lying, then he was already out of time. One last choice. Lewis, Ryan said into his communicator. Cancel the self-destruct. Sir. Lewis's shocked voice came back. Ryan looked down at Ilara. I'm taking a risk, he admitted, but I need to know the truth. Ilara gave him a knowing smile. Ryan exhaled sharply. Tell the crew to prepare for negotiation. We're making a deal with the devil. He released Ilara's wrist and helped her stand. She wavered slightly but held his gaze. You're smarter than I thought, Captain, she said. Ryan sighed. That makes one of us. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning. Captain Ryan Carter sprinted through the corridors of the U.S. Valor, his sidearm gripped tightly in his hand. The ship trembled under heavy fire from the Lumari fleet, but that wasn't his biggest problem right now. Ilara had escaped. Security. Ryan barked into his communicator. Princess Ilara is loose. Lock down all vital systems. Engineering, command access, everything. We're trotting, Captain. A guard's voice crackled back. But she's... The transmission cut off. Ryan cursed. She's already taken control of communications. He turned a corner and barely dodged a stun blast. The energy bolt sizzled past his face, striking the wall behind him. A group of security officers lay unconscious on the floor. Standing among them, completely unharmed, was Ilara. She held one of their rifles, her violet eyes glowing with eerie confidence. "You humans fight so hard," she mused, tilting her head. "It's almost impressive." Ryan raised his weapon. "Drop it. Now." Ilara chuckled. "You still think you're in control, don't you?" She took a step forward. "But this ship, your crew, everything is already slipping away from you." Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger. "I'm warning you, Ilara." Ilara sighed. "Very well." Then she moved. The fight for control. She was too fast. Before Ryan could fire, she dodged, impossibly graceful. In the blink of an eye, she closed the distance between them, grabbing his wrist with inhuman strength. Ryan gritted his teeth. She was stronger than she looked. With a sharp twist, she disarmed him. His weapon clattered to the floor. Ryan didn't hesitate. He threw a punch, but Ilara was faster. She sidestepped easily, grabbing his arm and slamming him into the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he didn't stop. He twisted free, grabbing a fallen, stunned baton from one of the unconscious guards. With a quick motion, he swung it at her. The baton connected, sending a shockwave through Ilara's body. She staggered, her glowing eyes flickering for a brief moment. Ryan took his chance. He grabbed his communicator. "Lewis, she's trying to take the ship." Before he could finish, Ilara recovered. She struck him hard, knocking the device from his hand. She pressed a small device against the wall panel. The ship's lights flickered, and suddenly, a robotic voice announced over the speakers. "Warning. Core access overridden. All ship controls were routed." Ryan's eyes widened. "No." Ilara smiled. "Yes." The ship stopped firing. The battle outside went silent. Ryan realized, with a sinking feeling, what had just happened. She had won. The U.S. Valor hovered in the silence of space, caught between two powerful enemies. The Lumari fleet remained in position, their weapons ready. The Ziphrans were watching from the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the massive Lumari warships outside the viewport. His crew was tense, waiting for orders. "Sir," Commander Lewis said cautiously, "are we really trusting her?" Ryan glanced at Ilara, who stood beside him. She no longer looked like a prisoner. She looked like a commander, calm, confident, and dangerous. "We don't have a choice," Ryan muttered. "We're outnumbered and outgunned. If we don't work with her, we won't survive." Ilara smirked. "You finally understand." Ryan turned back to the viewport. "Tell your fleet to stand down," he ordered her. Ilara nodded and tapped her wrist communicator. A moment later, the Lumari ships pulled back, their weapons lowering. The bridge crew exhaled in relief. The real enemy. A new alarm blared. "Captain," Parker shouted from the console. "A Ziphran fleet just decloaked behind us." Ryan's heart pounded. This was it. The Ziphrans had been waiting for their moment, and now they were ready to strike. A cold voice came over the comms. "Human vessel," the Ziphran commander said. "Surrender the princess, and we will spare your crew." Ryan looked at Ilara. She didn't seem surprised. "They were never your allies, Captain," she said. "They only wanted your technology and resources, and once you were weak enough, they were going to take it all." Ryan clenched his fists. "What's stopping them now?" Ilara smiled. "Us." She tapped her communicator again. Instantly, the entire Lumari fleet repositioned, blocking the Ziphran's path. The Ziphran commander hesitated. "You have a choice," Ilara said. "Leave now, or start a war you can't win." A long silence followed. Then, the Ziphran ships turned and vanished into the darkness of space. Ryan let out a breath. It was over. A new future. The bridge was quiet. The tension was gone, but uncertainty remained. Ryan turned to Ilara. "So, what now?" Ilara studied him for a moment. "Now, we fix what's broken. Together." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Just like that. We trust each other now." Ilara smirked. Trust. No, but we have a common goal. Ryan sighed. She was right. The galaxy was more dangerous than he had realized, and humans couldn't face it alone. He extended his hand. Then let's make it official. Ilara hesitated, then shook his hand. The bridge crew watched in disbelief. The war was over before it had begun, and a new alliance had formed. But Ryan knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. Ryan Carter ripped his arm free from Ilara's cold grip and took a quick step back, his heart pounding. His instincts had been right. She was dangerous. "I don't like games," he said, his voice firm. "What are you really doing on my ship?" Ilara tilted her head slightly, her violet eyes gleaming with amusement. "You humans are so predictable," she said. "You see a helpless girl and assume she needs saving. But the truth is, I was never the one in danger." Ryan's fingers hovered over his sidearm, but he knew better than to make the first move. Ilara was fast, too fast. If she could slip past his security systems undetected, she was more than just a princess. "Tell me the truth," he said, keeping his voice calm, "or I'll have no choice but to lock you in the brig." Ilara smiled. "You still don't understand, do you?" She took a slow step forward, completely unafraid. "I came here to study you, Captain. Your ship, your technology, your weaknesses." Ryan's blood ran cold. "You're a spy." She nodded. "A scout, actually. The first step before something much bigger." Ryan exhaled sharply. He needed to act fast. If Ilara was gathering intelligence for an attack, then every second she remained free put his ship and humanity at risk. A dangerous plan. Keeping his face neutral, Ryan pretended to relax. "All right," he said, stepping back toward the door. "Then let me make you a deal." Ilara raised an eyebrow. "A deal?" Ryan nodded. "If you really are a scout, then that means you work for someone. Your people want information, right? Well, I can give you something better, real negotiation. Peace talks. No more wars." Ilara studied him for a moment. "And why would humans ever agree to that?" Ryan forced a small smirk. "Because humans are survivors. We don't go down without a fight. And if your people are as intelligent as you say, they'll know underestimating us is a mistake." Ilara hesitated. That was all Ryan needed. With a sudden motion, he slammed his fist against the emergency alarm panel beside the door. The room flashed red, sirens blaring. Within seconds, the security team rushed in, weapons raised. Ilara's calm smile finally faded. Her gaze turned cold, calculating. "You're making a mistake, Captain," she said softly. Ryan held his ground. "No, Princess," he said. "The mistake was yours. You thought humans were weak." Ilara moved like lightning, trying to dodge. But this time, Ryan was ready. A stun blast hit her square in the chest. She staggered, eyes widening in surprise, before collapsing onto the floor. Ryan exhaled, holstering his weapon. He looked at the guards. "Lock her up," he ordered. "And find out exactly what she was sending before it's too late." Because if Ilara wasn't alone, then humanity was already in danger. Ilara sat inside the brig, her hands resting calmly on her lap. The glow of the energy barrier cast flickering light over her silver-blue skin. She didn't look worried. If anything, she looked amused. Captain Ryan Carter stood outside her cell, arms crossed, watching her carefully. Commander Lewis stood beside him, holding a datapad. "We finished decrypting her transmissions," Lewis said. His face was tense. "She wasn't just sending ship coordinates, Captain. She was sending classified fleet movements. Ours and the Zifrins." Ryan's jaw clenched. "So she's playing both sides." Ilara smiled. "You say that like it's a bad thing," she said, her voice soft. Ryan turned toward her. "You weren't running from the Zifrins, were you?" Ilara leaned forward slightly. "Very good, Captain. No, I wasn't." "Then why the act?" Ryan demanded. "Why make us believe you were just an innocent princess?" Ilara's violet eyes gleamed. Because humans are predictable. You see a vulnerable girl, and you want to protect her. You let me in, gave me access, trusted me. She tilted her head. It made my job easy. Ryan exhaled sharply. She had played them from the start. The bigger threat. Commander Lewis looked at the decrypted data. Captain, there's something else. Ilara's last transmission. It wasn't just information. He hesitated. It was a signal. Ryan turned to him. A signal for what? A sudden alarm blared through the ship. The red warning lights flashed. Captain, a voice came over the intercom. Multiple unidentified ships just appeared out of nowhere. They're not Sifran. Ryan's stomach dropped. He turned back to Ilara. She was still smiling. You called your people, he said. Ilara tilted her head slightly. Of course, she said. Did you really think I was alone? The attack begins. Ryan didn't waste another second. Lock down the brig, he ordered. Get to battle stations. Ilara leaned back against the wall, watching as Ryan and Lewis rushed out. She wasn't worried. Because she knew something they didn't. The Lumari weren't here to negotiate. They were here to end the war by taking control of everything. Starting with this ship. The U.S. Valor shook violently as enemy ships opened fire. The red emergency lights flickered while the crew scrambled to battle stations. Captain Ryan Carter rushed onto the bridge, his heart pounding. Report, he barked. Lieutenant Parker gripped the console. Multiple Lumari warships just exited FTL. They're positioning themselves around us. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He turned to the tactical officer. Raise shields and arm all weapons. Commander Lewis's voice was tense. Captain, the Lumari were supposed to be peaceful. We've never fought them before. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then we're about to find out what they're really capable of. Ilara's true role. Back in the brig, Ilara sat calmly as the ship trembled from the battle outside. A faint smile played on her lips. She had done her job. The fleet had arrived. The guard outside her cell shifted nervously, gripping his rifle. Your people are attacking us, he growled. Ilara gazed at him with amusement. Of course they are. The guard scowled. You're not a princess, are you? Ilara leaned forward slightly. Oh, I am. Just not the kind you imagined. Before the guard could react, a high-pitched sound emitted from Ilara's wrist. He cried out in pain, clutching his head. Within seconds, he collapsed, unconscious. Ilara stood gracefully, reaching through the energy field of the brig, as if it wasn't even there. The barrier flickered, then shut down completely. She was free. A battle for survival. On the bridge, the crew fought desperately. The U.S. Valor's turrets fired rapid bursts at the attacking Lumari ships, but their energy shields were too strong. Shields at 40%, Parker shouted. Ryan gritted his teeth. Target their engines. We need to slow them down. Before Parker could respond, a warning beeped on the security panel. Captain, Lewis gasped. The brig. It's been breached. Ryan felt a chill go through him. Ilara. He grabbed his sidearm. I'm going after her. Hold this ship together. As Ryan raced out of the bridge, he knew one thing for certain. Ilara wasn't running anymore. She was taking over. Captain Ryan Carter entered the security room, his eyes sharp with suspicion. Commander Lewis was already there, standing in front of a large screen. The room was dim, filled with the soft glow of data monitors. You said you found something, Ryan asked, his voice calm but firm. Lewis nodded and played a security recording. Watch this. The screen flickered to life, showing Princess Ilara walking down a corridor late at night. She stopped near the communications room and glanced around. Then, with unnatural speed, she placed her hand on the security panel. The door unlocked instantly. Ryan narrowed his eyes. She bypassed our security. That's not all, Lewis said. He fast-forwarded the footage. A few minutes later, Ilara exited the room. The next morning, The ship's long-range communications failed. Ryan clenched his jaw. She did something to our systems. But why? Lewis asked. If she needed to send a message, she could have asked for help. Ryan shook his head. Because she doesn't want us to know what she's doing. Confronting the princess. Ryan marched toward Ilara's quarters, his mind racing. The moment he stepped inside, he found her sitting gracefully on a chair, her silver-blue skin glowing softly in the dim light. She smiled at him. "Captain," she greeted him warmly. "Is something wrong?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He studied her carefully. Everything about her seemed perfect, too perfect. "Where were you last night?" he asked. Ilara tilted her head. "In my room, resting." Ryan crossed his arms. "Really? Because security footage shows you breaking into the communications room." For a brief second, Ilara's expression flickered. Then she let out a soft sigh and smiled again. "I suppose I should have known you would find out." Ryan tensed. "So, you admit it." Ilara stood up slowly and walked toward him. There was something unnerving about the way she moved. Graceful, silent, predatory. "Yes," she said softly. "I disabled your long-range communications." Ryan's hand moved to his sidearm. "Why?" Ilara's smile deepened. "Because, Captain, you were never supposed to know the truth. The truth begins to unfold." Ryan didn't hesitate. He reached for his communicator. "Security team, detain." Before he could finish, Ilara moved. Faster than any human should be able to. In the blink of an eye, she was behind him. Her hand gripped his wrist, stopping him from calling for backup. Her touch was ice-cold. "You are very clever, Captain," she whispered. "But you don't understand. This ship, this crew, you're all just pieces on a board. And I am here to ensure the game plays out as it should." Ryan's blood ran cold. Ilara was not a refugee. She was something else entirely. Princess Ilara lay on the medical bed, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the ship's bright lights. A soft hiss filled the room as the medical scanner moved over her body, checking for injuries. Dr. Mason, an older man with sharp eyes, studied the results. "No major injuries," he muttered. "Some dehydration and exhaustion, but nothing serious." Ryan stood nearby, arms crossed. His gaze never left Ilara. Something about her story didn't sit right with him. The Ziphrans were ruthless, yes, but why would they attack a Lumari ship? The Lumari were neutral. They stayed out of wars. Ilara opened her violet eyes and looked at Ryan. "Thank you for saving me, Captain," she said softly. "If you had not found me, I would be lost in space forever." Ryan nodded. "You're safe now. But I need to ask, why were the Ziphrans after you?" Ilara hesitated. She lowered her eyes as if remembering something painful. "They wanted to capture me. My father, the king, refused to ally with them. So they destroyed our ship." A single tear rolled down her cheek. The crew members watching her felt sympathy. Even Commander Lewis, who was usually suspicious of aliens, seemed convinced. But Ryan wasn't. She's too perfect, too innocent. Still, he couldn't accuse her without proof. Instead, he decided to keep her close and watch her carefully. Ilara gains their trust. Over the next few days, Ilara quickly became part of the crew. She walked through the corridors, talking to the officers, asking questions about human culture. She was charming, intelligent, and kind. She even helped the ship's engineer, Lieutenant Parker, solve a problem with the navigation system by suggesting a Lumari algorithm. "Your technology is fascinating," she said with a smile. The crew began to trust her, but strange things started happening. The main communication system had a sudden malfunction. A weapons system test failed without reason. The security cameras in restricted areas went offline for a few minutes. Small things. Accidents. Or were they? Ryan's suspicion grows. Ryan sat in his quarters, reviewing reports. He tapped a finger on the desk, thinking. His instincts told him something was wrong. Just then, his personal communicator beeped. Commander Lewis was on the line. "Captain," Lewis said, his voice tense. "You need to see this. Now." Ryan stood immediately. "I'm on my way." As he marched toward the security room, he knew one thing. Ilara was not as innocent as she seemed.